Content warning. This episode contains themes of grief, loss, and depression. Viewer discretion is advised.
Hi, my name is Elsie Ayatunde Cullen and I'm the founder of a platform called ourppls. And today we have the very first episode of our podcast series called Our People's Heart, where we talk about topics that are important to us as human beings. And today we are talking about grief. Since 2020, I think the amount of people that have experienced grief times by 5. And every year, so many of us that are close experience grief in many different ways. Grief shows up in the form of bereavement, in the form of chronic illness, in so many different ways. And so today, I really wanted to bring together an amazing panel of people that I love, that I know, that I'm getting to know, to kind of speak about their own experiences of grief. One, to kind of make the topic feel more accessible to those that are experiencing it maybe by themselves. And two, to hopefully be able to offer inspiration, support, advice, guidance, if you are navigating grief yourself. And so without further ado, if everyone could please introduce themselves. I'll go around.
Okay, cool. My name's Tony. I am founder of Soul Surge Wellness, which is a wellness platform sort of working with young men and boys in schools and prisons around emotional wellness, stress management and emotional regulation.
Hey, I'm Ayana. I'm an intuitive movement director and practitioner. I lead movement workshops to help people kind of get out their heads and into their bodies, using these intuitive techniques and methods for groups of people, and collaborating with brands and other practitioners. So yeah.
Hi everyone, my name is Hadiza Adamu, and I'm a social worker, a team manager, child protection. I work with children and families, and now I manage a specialist team in a local authority.
Hi, my name is Yinka Essien. I am a pensions manager by day, and I run a charity called Life for Widows. Every point of the day. Yeah. That's me, really.
Thank you. I think it's really interesting how even our careers are so different, and what we do and how we choose to navigate our own journeys, like working with young people in schools, like body work, the platform that you run, social work as well. I used to be a nurse, and we come across so many human beings on a day-to-day basis, and even navigating other people's grief is so interesting. But we'll get into that at some point. And so I guess I did want to kind of ask everyone to kind of share their own personal experiences of grief. Again, it shows up in so many different ways for so many different people, and no one's grief can ever look the same. For my personal experience, my mum was diagnosed with cancer in February 2021, and she was diagnosed with stage 4. She didn't have really any signs. There was nothing that she'd gone for her smear test, and there was nothing that they kind of said or came up on the scans until she started having bleeding, and then 9 months later she passed away of the cancer. And I think even though obviously it's horrible, I felt so grateful that I had that 9 months to prepare myself mentally. Not that I was preparing myself for it to happen, because obviously we'll pray out, God is gonna heal, but I think at least I had that time to start to, just prepare myself throughout that process. Whereas I know that for other people, it can happen instantly just like that. And so that's my personal experience of grief.
Cool. Thanks for sharing.
Yeah.
Do you want me to go next?
Yeah. That's what I'm looking at you.
We're going to bounce around
Okay, cool.
a circle.
So mine is interesting because it's gone at different intervals throughout my life, I would say. My first funeral I was 17, and a friend of mine was in a car crash, and he passed. And I was really I guess naive to what it even was. So I went to the funeral, kind of just, it didn't resonate for a long time. And so I was 17, and then when I was 21, my best friend passed. He was died diagnosed with stage 4 cancer as well. And again, at the time, when I was told his diagnosis, I didn't understand it either. So I didn't really think about preparation. I didn't actually believe that he would pass. I was kind of like very hopeful, and at the time quite faithful in my religion. As a Christian, I was brought up as a Christian, and so at the time I was like almost kind of ignoring the facts and like, you know, the reality of what was happening, and actually just kind of hoping and praying that things wouldn't go that way. But when it did, I think for me, I didn't know how to process it as a young man, 21 years old. I was at uni at the time, so I wasn't living in London or living at home. So my support system wasn't really, I was around friends who also didn't know how to navigate grief, and they'd never lost anyone close to them either. So that was the first of like a few different losses, or that wasn't the first, but it was the first big one, or the closest one at the time, for me to really start to, when I look back, to understand my grief journey, I would say. Yeah.
I think age plays a massive part in how we deal with it, because I can imagine being so young, losing someone, and how different it looks being young to being older. But yeah, thank you for sharing as well. Ayana?
Well, where do I start? So obviously, like I've experienced like quite a few griefs, but none which were as kind of pivotal changes in my life like the one I did like 3 years ago. So in the actual time, I was pregnant and I lost my granddad, and he was like the best person like in my whole life. Like he was the most present person in our life. And when I was 5 months, it was around COVID time actually, there was just a lot of complications and he had passed. But because I was pregnant at the time, I was just like, my idea of like death and life was very much so like, like, you know, he lived a full life, he loved his life, he was an amazing person. So I could grieve that in a way that now I've got something else to look forward to. And I had an amazing pregnancy as well. So it was just such a shock that a week before my son's due date, I went into like a normal appointment and a normal checkup, and they couldn't find his heartbeat. And even in that moment, they didn't realise that he had died yet. So I had to be like told to just go to the hospital, and then they'll see me like straight away, just to like check. And then I had like different midwives coming in each and every time, trying to see if they could find the pulse. And even one midwife was just like to me, oh, like, don't worry, like, this is not anything, like, it might not be anything serious. And then there was another doctor that literally just said, yeah, like, your baby's died. And it was such a shock, because even on that day, I think I was even meant to meet my friend for like another pregnancy shoot. It was just a normal day. So when they told me that news, I think that's when everything just really just shut down, and it's just the biggest grief. And it's funny because I think losing, my son's name's Jacob, I think losing Jacob, I was able to accept his death after a while. But I think you don't get told of the grief that you have after. Like, it's the loss of like yourself, or like grieving who you was going to be like as a mother. In the time also, you know, going through being in a relationship at that time as well, and then going through like a breakup, is like you're grieving that. So it's like different griefs all in like around the loss, which was really interesting. But I am really grateful for the experience. It's been reviving, as well as like all the ups and downs after. I can see a bit more of that, the vision of why that happened for myself, and it might not make sense to anyone else, but for me it's just like I had to have that grief and I had to have that loss, because there was purpose in it. And that's my grief that, you know, I really kind of, it's been really profound in my life. Like, with all the grief that I've lost so many people, but that's probably the one that I'm really deeply connected with.
Thank Thank you for sharing.
That's all right.
Thank you for sharing. Just like you've said, I've suffered quite a few griefs as well. I think the first one that really knocked me off was my school friend then at the Polytechnic in Nigeria. We were very close, and she had a baby. She was fine. She was discharged home, and she said she had a headache. So her partner at the time felt, oh, take paracetamol. She did. She said the headache was getting worse, and they called the ambulance. She walked into the ambulance herself. Unfortunately, she never made it to the hospital, and it was a massive shock for me. We were in our early 30s then. I was devastated because we were quite close. So I think I got withdrawn. I wasn't speaking to anyone, and I had 2 young daughters then. I think I just had my daughter, my second daughter at the time, and it was quite difficult for me. And the other one again is my late husband. Although he was unwell for a while, and I didn't even expect. He was fine. I didn't expect he was going to die. I just received a call. Fortunately, I wasn't home. Or would I say unfortunate? I wasn't home. My mom was home, and I went to pick my daughters from school. By the time I came back, my mother said, I just saw her. She was cooking, and she turned off all the fire on the stove. She said, come. I said, are you not cooking anymore? She said, no. I said, you look somber. Are you okay? She said, no. She said, come and sit down next to me. That she just received a call while I went to pick my daughters from school that my husband has passed. And I was in my early 30s. That was a lot for me. I didn't know what to do. I had 3 young girls within the age of 9 and almost 3. It was quite difficult. And the loss of my mom was a shock as well, because I spoke to her on a Monday, on a Mother's Day, which was a Sunday, with the girls. And Tuesday morning, I received a phone call from my brother saying Mom had passed. I just said, I was in denial. I said, no, she's okay. I said, probably she just slumped. They need to check her, resuscitate her or something. I didn't take it as anything. And not until I went back to Nigeria that I saw her corpse, all the while, I kept saying to myself, no, she's fine. Probably the doctors missed something, because we were very close, and she was quite supportive of me, especially after my husband's passing. And unfortunately, within 6 months that my mother passed, my father passed as well. And he was heartbroken, devastated from the time my mother passed. And he refused to eat. He was a lively and bubbly person. He stopped eating, communicating with anyone. I'll call him and say, Dad, you need to eat. I've been told you've not had any meal all day. The next thing, he starts crying that, this is not what they planned with my mom. That, they've always discussed that he would die first before her. So why did she have to leave him? So, and after that, I've got quite a few. It's been quite, it's been quite a journey, but it's okay. It's okay.
Thank you.
Okay, so when one's young, as Tony was saying, people died, but they weren't close. However, I turned 40 in 2014, and my late husband then, we had a book, somebody got a book where people write things, and they missed him out when they were taking the book round. So when I got home, I said to him, "You didn't write in my book." So he wrote in the book and he said, "We'll love you forever till death do us part." And that was in 2014. Was that 14? Yeah, 2014. No, I'm talking utter rubbish. 2005 is when my husband died. Okay, so I was 40 in 2004. Yes, yes. Together. And he died the following year. Okay, till death do us part. I was abroad and I just learned, I was told that he had died. Now, I had just had a baby. He was 4 months old at the time. And we were planning to move to Nigeria. So everything was, Etim, my eldest, was about to go to Nigeria to school because my husband was in Nigeria and because he died in Nigeria. Now, that was a big shock. There was no warning. They said he collapsed and he had malaria or something and was exhaustion. So I just said to him, come back. On the Friday, he spoke to me. He spoke to my brother. He was looking for me about 9 o'clock. And he wanted to speak to me in America. He wanted the number. And my brother, who he got hold of, said to me that he didn't have a number. He'd call him back. My husband died 2 hours later. Now, that came from nowhere. Big shock. It's like, really? What'd you do? And that was hard. But my youngest son, whose name is Boluwatife, which means as the Lord has planned it, is the one that kind of gave us focus, including my other 2 sons. So that was bad. And as you know, when you're in a situation like that, there's no planning. You can't plan for it. So you just, as you know, you just have to live. Yes? You get on with it. And that's basically how we did it. Now, that's my husband. I think about 4 years later, my father then died unexpectedly. And that was trauma. My sister was there and she told us he's not well. And so I said, took him to the hospital, and they were checking, and next thing they told me, he's got some hepatitis C or something. When I told my cousin, she said, he's going, prepare yourself, because that's what her father died of. And like joke, within 9 days, he was gone. No prep, no nothing. So that was that. And then I think the last one that happened, which was last year, was one of my very close friends, who was my youngest son's godmother, and she never, I never knew she was unwell. I don't even think she knew she was unwell like that, and I don't even think we still know why she died. But out of the blues, we get a text to say, "So sorry, my mom has died." I said, "Really? You must be joking, And that one, when I guess you don't know how you're going to miss someone or how your relationship was till that person's gone. And it was so hard, and it still is, that really, has she gone? You don't get any forewarning. It's like, really? And our group of friends is still like, it's so unreal. It's so unreal. But that's death for you. Sometimes it gives you warning. You had 9 months. I had no warning. You had no warning. You had no clue. And your friend had an accident. But that's just death for you.
It's interesting because even if you was to, I always think like even if I was prepared or like I was told, I would still feel the same loss or hurt anytime it came anyway, because it's the fact that the they're no longer there. And regardless whether you have like a warning of like 10 years or a year or 9 months, like the moment's still going to come, because you always want more time with the people that you love. So it's interesting. It's like, you know, preparing. Like, I feel like I can never prepare myself for any grief. And I feel like even though I've gone through like what people will be like, you've been through like the worst thing, everyone, I just think, yeah, but like even if I go through like another loss, there's no rule but to like, this is, I've got this, and like this is it, and you know, I'm prepared for this, and I'm ready to like be challenged by it. Like, I'll still feel that same loss, that same hurt, that same, you know, the part of me that's no longer there, because my role's now changed to the relationship of whoever it is that's passed, which is really interesting.
And also, you can actually, like you said, you can never prepare for loss, because it's a sudden thing. Even when somebody has got a terminal illness, you keep praying and hoping the person would leave. You keep praying. You know, I had someone very close to me like that passed. He was ill in the hospital, and I kept praying and hoping he'll be better. He was induced. He came out of it. He was fine. I went to see him before I traveled, and he was fine. He was chatting with me. Oh, well done. Well, it's like he knew he was going. It was later I was reflecting. I said, this guy knew he was going. He now started analyzing each and every one of his children, you know, and we were all laughing. Then suddenly I just got the call that he's gone. I said, what? He said, how? I said, he was well, that we all thought he was fine. So no matter how we think at times we prepare, we're not fully prepared, you know. The shock is still there. Like my mom would say, when, you know, if someone dies, she'll you know, I say, but why? Why did the person have to die? She used to say to me then that when death comes, it comes with a reason. That because we're all searching for a meaning, but the death would come and they say, why did this person die? The person might be seated and just die in their sleep. That's a reason. So if we're searching for a meaning, that death is inevitable, and we just, you know, learn how to cope individually when it comes or when it happens to us, and we have to grieve.
I remember feeling like wanting to be told there's a reason when it happened. I hated everyone. There's a reason behind this. I'm just like, yeah, okay. I can't see it right now. I'm in the thick of it. Right? This just happened.
And you get angry as well. That, you know, why are you telling me? Or it's the will, especially the common one that I don't like hearing when someone passes. Oh, it's the will of God. I roll my eyes and say, what do you mean is the will of God? This person was a good person. Why should this person go? Will of God. And I look, then I caution myself again. I say, Hadiza, God forgive me, please. I didn't mean it that way. Yes, you give life and you take. Then I sort of pull myself back again. So.
You look at, you see, when my husband died, one way, I don't know, but the phrase what I had in my mind at the time, and anybody that came to see me, to visit me, I say, God is in control. One thing I know is that God is in control. That was my line. I said it non-stop. If you come to my house, people be crying and whatever. I said, God is in control. Only God knows why. I don't know why. And there's no use, he's not going to answer me right now. You understand? But after time, I knew why. Because you will know why, as you have inferred. But it was, God is in control. However, at that particular time, I lived in a little village in Harefield, and I had a supporter. So if my husband traveled, because he used to travel quite a bit, I had a friend who just lived down the road. So if I couldn't get back from work, she'd help me pick up the children, etc., etc. You'll not believe that August. My husband died August 12th. Just after he died, she was diagnosed with leukemia. And at the time, she said, she had a throat, she had tonsillitis and stuff. And she said that it wasn't going, but she was a nurse, so she told them to check her out. And then they noticed that she had leukemia. So, okay, that was the first time I even heard the word. And then, she said, oh, that's fine, that it's not, it's not terminal, it should be all right, and all that. And gradually I watched her through, and within 5 months, this woman died. Now, that's my support. That was my support in the village. And it was like, how the heck did that happen? You know? And I was there when she took her last breath, because, and when you look at, I look at myself, and so my friends say to me, what's wrong with you? What is wrong with you? Why do you just put yourself out there? But I wasn't her next of kin, but I was the person that she worked for the RAF, and it was me they were coming to. And the hospital had me, because her parents was another story, but it was me. And they called me and said to me, you know, early hours of the morning, that, you know, you need to come in. Her organs I said, I beg your pardon? Her organs are failing, you know. And I went to the hospital. I had a little boy at 4 months. No, he was probably 9 months then. And there was another friend, and I said to her, we need to go. She said, no, she's not going. She said, she can't. I should drop my baby for her. And off I went to the hospital, and, you know, in the room with my friend, and you're watching the machine, and the thing is, you know, and then it was, and then the next thing, you know, it's going, and then it just goes, and I said to the doctor, very stupid question. I said, what does that mean? You know, everybody watches casualty, but I said, what does that mean? He said, she's gone. And it's like, and that was it. Do you know what I mean? That was it. Do you want us to take out the wires? Do you want us to do that? It's hard.
Yeah. Having to make a decision as
and
well.
you know, and then you go into the morgue, and then they're telling me, because she had cancer, she had no hair, oh, we need to put a wig on. I said, okay, I'll go and get the wig. So I bring the wig.
Yeah.
And then they tell me, do you want to put it on? I said, huh?
Yeah.
You want me to put the wig on? I mean, I've seen it all, you know. And, you know, but one way or the other, you do what you have to do.
Yeah.
That's the thing, you really do. Like, no one, there's just one step after the other.
Yeah.
And it just all, like, unravels. Like, even after hearing the news that he died, Jacob, it's like the next step is like, right, so we're going to give birth now. And it's like, you have to go through that whole process, like, of giving birth vaginally as well. And going for the hours of, like, labour, feeling everything, whilst dealing with, like, both families and everything else, and then trying to be sane. And then, like, even after that, like, making decisions, like you were saying, like, you know, they'll be like, oh, do you want to, like, put, like, a nappy on him, or, like, you clothe him? And I know it really sounds really silly, like, in those times, but just asking for all of these decisions, and I'm just like, oh my goodness, like, I don't know. And then even planning funerals and stuff like that, like, it really is like you don't have time. You have to just you keep on, because they're all, you know, it's business in the sense of, like, you know, okay, arrangements, things like that, like there has to create that movement before the next stages, and then, like, after it all happens, it's when it gets quiet and you're by yourself that you can actually just grieve.
I think for me, I'm like, because my mum had that preparation time, because even on top of, like, preparing, I think nothing prepares you for the actual grief, but I think having that time did allow us to prepare in ways that, you know, I made sure that I recorded videos of us, I recorded interviews of her, I did anything that I could to kind of, like, preserve the memory of her, or to prepare something that I can have when she's not here. But then even my mom, like, God bless her, like, she had already paid for her funeral stuff. She had already arranged her her, what's this thing called, her grave, her grave. Like, she paid for everything. She arranged the horses. She arranged for the all the people that come and carry. She arranged it all. So you didn't have to do anything. So when it came, she'd pass. It was just a matter of call them up. Okay, it's happened, and everything else was kind of, like, ready. So, like, even that, again, my mum, she really did, like, do a lot to kind of, like, take that burden off. And even, like, because I was living at home, so I was caring for her as she began to, like, deteriorate and stuff. And I remember, like, going to, because so before she passed, she was in hospital for a few days, and then she came home for the final few days where she passed at home. And I remember us being in the hospital like 3 days before she'd passed, and she was telling me to bring paper and be like, hey, Elsie, make sure you pay this person school fees for the next year. Make sure you give this person, divide the money this way, give 1 portion to this person, 1 portion to this person. What she's saying, she paid her offering for the next, because every year we have like a kind of like a Thanksgiving Tabora service that we have every year. So she really had prepared her pamphlet, her envelope with money for the next year to pay the offering for it. Like she prepared so much, and I think for her, even though I know that she was like praying and all of us were praying and faithful, to at least like 2 weeks before, I think to at least 2 weeks before, I thought, oh no, things can turn around here. Do you know what I mean? Maybe if we exercise or we have some juices or we eat soursop food that beats 5 times a day, maybe something can happen. But I think it was until 2 weeks before that I said, okay, because she started to like develop wounds. And so when I saw the wounds, I said, okay, cool, this is, an indication. It's an indication that, but I think, I think a lot of people don't like to prepare because they think that it means that they've admitted failure. But actually, preparing is so important. Even like stuff like a will, something as simple as a will. People don't like to write their will because it's like, oh no.
It's like you don't want to manifest it.
That's a cultural thing as well. Wills are key. I mean, I said to my late husband at the time, a friend of mine came to visit about 2 years before he died, and she said to me, she looked around, she said, oh, you know, she said, because he was self-employed, and she said, Yinka, have you? I said, has he got a will? And I said, She said, because, if he dies, there's nothing for you or the kids, but if you die, he's smiling, and I thought about it and I said, ooh, she's right, So I called my broker at the time and I said, can you just give me some, quotes? Nothing major, he's not dying as far as we're concerned. And he said, she, bought the quotes and everything, and I just chose the cheapest one and said, okay, sign. He said, so I went to him and I said, can you sign? This is for just in case you die. He said, are you trying to kill me? Are you expecting what?
I wonder how that conversation came out.
I'm not. I'm just in case you go sign this paper. Yeah. And he signed because I dealt with the finances. But there are many people, many African men that don't like those kind of things. And, and I educate people anytime I have the mic and I'm talking to people, especially widows, single parents, make sure, even before they become married people, do you understand? Make sure you have life insurance. It's key. It's key. It makes a world of a difference.
Big difference.
I did it in 2003. My husband died in 2005.
Wow.
Are you hearing me?
Yeah.
There are many people that have fallen short of this.
Yeah.
And when you hear, the first question when somebody dies, is there life insurance? Or they had it with the house and then they stopped it when things were hard and never reinstated it. And it makes a hell of a difference.
Honestly.
It really does.
Honestly.
It does. It's like it's a taboo subject in the African community. I can only speak for the African community. It's like it's a taboo. When you ask someone do you have a will? It's like they look at you, are you trying to kill me? Or why? And at times, no matter how you try to explain to them to say, look, it's for the benefit of your children, your family, or people around, your loved ones. They don't see it that way. It's a struggle to get them, especially the men.
Even life insurance.
Yeah, life insurance.
It's until you tell people that you get money, people don't like to talk about life insurance. But like the benefits of life insurance is that like if someone does pass away, like the lump sum that you have afterwards is able, because a lot of people, again, like if you haven't prepared for things like funeral, for tombstone, for like those things are so expensive, so expensive, and you'll see people doing like fundraiser, GoFundMe to cover the costs. But it's like stuff like life insurance helps cover those things.
And it's also like the families, it's everyone else that has to really deal with it after. It's
it's
not you. It's not about you, essentially.
And if you have a house, and it's a lot of women, well, not a lot, but say 50% of women were not working as some of them were housewives. So you don't have a job, and then your husband dies, and there's no life assurance. Who's going to carry the mortgage? Who's going to cover the bills? in the interim before you start finding your feet. So it's a topic. It is, and in this country especially, where you can get so much for so little.
Yeah, of course.
And if you start early, it's so cheap.
Yeah.
And you just leave it there. I mean, I've been paying life insurance since I was in my 20s.
Yeah.
You know,
But I think the conversation of life insurance makes death real for a lot of people.
Yeah.
Especially if they haven't experienced it. Like I know, for me, it was by the time I was 30, I think, and I lost someone, and then I was like, okay, I need life insurance because I'm losing a lot of people around me, and a lot of people that I knew weren't making it to 30. So I was like, okay, let me think about my family and what I need to leave behind as well.
Yeah.
But until people are actually thinking about that, it's like the men around me, the people I speak to sometimes, they think it's a waste of money.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, but you're paying all of this stuff, and it's like, but it's not for you to see.
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah.
it's not for you, you know what I mean?
Yeah, there's so much resistance.
It's so much, and we pay insurance for phone, car, laptop,
Yeah.
whatever,
yeah.
and it's
for
not
your
a
own
problem.
life.
But for life,
Yeah.
the most valuable thing, you know.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's tricky, but yeah, it's necessary. It's an important conversation.
So I really want to speak about, because obviously we've spoken about that kind of preparation, and I think the general consensus is that even though if you prepare, nothing can still prepare you. And so some of those like first emotions, because I think some of you guys have mentioned that kind of like that disbelief, that like confusion, it might be the anger. What were some of the emotions that came up for you guys in those initial moments, and how did you process them?
For me, I would. It was one similar to your experience. My younger sister, she's lost a set of twins, stillbirth, and the one that really hit me was on my 50th birthday. We were at dinner, and her membrane water ruptured. And I was panicking because she's been going through IVF. She's done about, as at the time, I think that was the 7th or the 6th IVF. And she had the twins. We were all hopeful because she's lost set. And it was at my 50th birthday dinner. She just said, her membrane water ruptured. I just froze. I said, God, why today of all days? I had to be strong for her. I was devastated inside, but I couldn't express my emotions, my true emotions. I'll go rush out, cry a bit, wipe away my tears, come back and look strong. Because she was looking at me. At the time, she was still hoping that the twins would survive. And like you experienced, she had to give birth to those children like that. It was tough. And at some point on that day, the first one was born. He was gone. The second one was still breathing. And because he was it 23 weeks or 20? It was 23 weeks, not 24 weeks. There's one, is it that 22 weeks or 23 weeks, one of the two, that they could have put the baby in the incubator and help the baby. It was just a week short. I think is it that there were 23 weeks going to be 24 or 22 going to be 23. Anyway, they gave her, the baby was just left in the court. And it's like the baby was allowed to just breathe until it can breathe no more. And I was very, very devastated. I felt helpless. First time in my life, I couldn't help. People refer to me as a mother hen. I try to help, even without you asking me. If I think you need help, I'll ask you, do you want me to assist? This is what I can do. But this time I felt very helpless. And we lost my sister for like lost in the sense that she lost her mind. She went like insane for almost an hour, and I was crying, calling my mom. I said, Mom, yes, you're not here. I believe your spirit is here. I can't afford to lose my baby sister, because it's like I raised her, and she didn't know what she was saying. She kept saying, the baby is crying. Give me the baby. I need to breastfeed the baby. Can't you hear the baby crying? And the baby had gone.
It's so interesting you say that, because even when you speak, you remind me of Jacob's dad's mum, and she's Nigerian. And it's interesting because I always thought she was, like you said, like she just kind of held it up. And it's because you don't see the emotion. I always just thought, wow, like, are you not really understanding? And she was also in disbelief when it happened, because even until like after I gave birth, they kept praying that he was still fine and that he was going to come out alive. So that really, like when you said that, it was almost like your presence was like with like his mom.
In that moment, I think she wants to, present strong for you, because if she breaks down, then how do we support you? Yes, what has happened affected you directly more than us. So yes, we are there. It's affected us as well, but we have to stay strong, because in my brain, I said, no, my sister cannot see me crying, being devastated for her. So I had to pretend and be strong, and I would cry. When I'm coming, I'll look in the mirror and make sure it doesn't seem as if I'm crying. I just had to be strong for her. Even my daughters said to me over the years that, Mom, it's okay not to come across as being strong for everybody. You can cry. I only started crying in the presence of my children maybe a few years back, that I can't, because I would say to myself, these girls don't have anyone. It's me. They look up to me. How can I weep in their presence? They have no one to go to. I'm the mother, I'm the father. And for my sister, I raised her. When I got married, my mother gave her to me and said, go with your sister. If you need someone to help you get something in the house, train her. So she's like my first child. And going through that, I couldn't comprehend it. Every birthday since my 50th, that's the first thing that comes to mind. That, if these children were alive, they would have been so age.
That's the thing, you end up just wrapping your brains about what could be. Like for me, like I feel when I first heard the news, I really understand in some capacity how your sister was feeling. Like I literally was at first in disbelief, because I had an appointment a week before and his heartbeat was fine and everything, and blood flow was all right. So when I even went into this, I was in disbelief. And then when like I got told, like I had to hear the words like, yeah, he's dead, like you had to just hear it as blunt as that. I just and I was by myself, and I just I screamed. Like I just screamed down that whole hospital, and it was just like an out of body experience. So you just feel like everything in you just has to come out. Like there was no words, there was no anything. You couldn't really say anything because it was just all too much. And I remember like calling everyone that no one was picking up, and I was just like, this is not happening. Like this can't be. And from that complete hysteria, I remember when my mum came in the room first, and she was the first person I saw, and I had to be strong for her. Like as soon as I saw my mum's face, I just thought, wow, like, oh my goodness, this is real. But I wanted to protect everyone else. And then my sisters came, my friends came, and my sisters came. We was all in this like really small room, and then my Jacob's dad's mum and her sister was there as well. And I just remember everyone was like, everything just became a blur. And I remember feeling absolutely nothing. I just felt numb. And I remember everyone was coming in, like, just crying in the room. And I was just numb. And I think I went to the bathroom and there was like this mirror and like a full length, and I was just in this yellow dress with like this bump, and I was just like, why did you die? And it was almost just like a numb, I didn't feel anything, and I was just hearing, and I couldn't, I was just like, it almost became rational. And I was just like, okay, yeah, like, because everyone else was like crying around me. I was just like, right, I need to like be the person to take care of this clearly. And then like the doctors are talking. My mum, she can be like, she was asking like loads of questions, and also she was like so angry, and everyone was getting frustrated at each other because no one knew how to share the grief because it was all just happened. And I remember like just saying to the doctor, yeah, like I'll give birth to him, vagina, that's all fine. Like, okay, like what's the next step? Okay, like I just felt really numb, even to the point of they had to find me a room. And when I found out the news, I didn't give birth until the next day, so I had to stay over. And I remember like the simple things of messaging my dad, like, oh, could you like go and get my creams? Like, there's no, just so, it's like a functioning. I was just doing, like, I was just functioning. And I was like, yeah, this is the next step. Yeah, okay, cool. Right, getting induced now. Right. Like, it's just, I just felt so numb until like I held him. And even then, like, it was just almost normal. Like, right, okay, I'm with him for like a bit until I have to give him away. And it was like, until I had to give him away, that was like going home. You know, it was being at home because there was so much silence. That is when like it was just breakdown, like screaming hysterically. You almost do feel like you're losing your mind. Yes. And I think at a point I did lose my mind. And I think because I come across as like, as well as my work as well, like even just posting things, and you know, I was quite normal in a sense, or like I just wanted people to believe I was doing all right because I didn't want the responsibility of everyone else's like feeling that I'm not okay with the pressures of it. So I was just like, yeah, you know, and all you get is like, oh, you glowing? And I was like, yeah, maybe just die. I'm like, yeah, like, you know. And it's just that, it was just until like everything calms down, and then it's like you're just sat with yourself and you're sat with your grief, and it's almost like you're being soaked, like a sponge that is just being like soaked and soaked and soaked and soaked until you just need to be squeezed. And that is just literally what it feels like. Like I think, yeah, like your mind is the biggest thing in it all, and I definitely lost my mind a lot of it, and I definitely couldn't cope a lot of the times as well. So yeah, like you really need to have people to support you and like your mind, and not always be the one that I'm saying to be the strong one, but also have that communication so you can all lean on each other in a sense.
I'm keen to hear from you as well, Tony, and especially from men. Like my older brother, I always think about him, and he, even my dad, the way they deal with grief. Sometimes I do think about like what is it they're thinking and feeling, because they say so much without saying anything, and it's them not saying anything that I'm worried about. So for yourself, like what was, like, how did you navigate? Like what was those feelings and emotions?
It's difficult because there was different times. So I'll speak about two of the, I would say, most profound. So when I was 21, my best friend passing, that was interesting because I remember it was at my house. We were at my house, me and a few of our friends. I remember exactly what I was doing. I was watching the boxing, and I remember I got a call, and like first it was like, this was BlackBerry days, so ping, my phone was just pinging, and then I got a call, and then I picked up, and his cousin was like, he's gone, and that was like how he delivered the news, right? And then that was the conversation. Literally, he's gone, and I'm like, okay. Then I called my other friend, and he was like running. I was like, where you going? He's like, I'm running. I'm going to the hospital. Like, I've heard. So that was all the confirmation I needed at the time. And then, so I'm hosting people, and I'm having this conversation. And I remember I just went upstairs, and I was just looking for my sister. And then when I got there, I just broke down completely, burst into tears. And that was like, in my memory, like the first time I've cried as an adult, like like my teenage years, don't remember crying or anything, and that was like uncontrollable emotion. I didn't even know what was going on. And then I went downstairs, and then it was like, oh, who won? Like I literally just switched it off. Like no one knew anything happened. Finished what we were doing, then they left. I walked them to the station. Like it was just so, it was weird. Like it was like almost like you're saying numb. Yeah, it's like, okay, I know that this is happening. I don't even understand it, but right now I have to do this, which is like, and I don't really want to talk to boys, 20, 21, but still very young. We didn't talk about emotions or anything like that. Like we were watching sport. Like so, as far as I was concerned, it was like I didn't want to ruin the night. Moment, for them, they didn't come outside for that. Like so, and I also didn't really. It was just new, so I didn't even think that they would understand or know how to hold space for me, and I didn't even know what I needed. So I was just like, I'm not going to say anything. And then from there, I think there was a period of just absence. Like I was at uni, but even like, and other people might resonate with this, but there's a period of my life where I can't even remember. Like, and that period from his passing, I remember the funeral, I remember a few things in between. I remember not eating. There was just like, there's moments or flashes that I can remember, but in that time, I was so vacant. Like I wasn't present at all. And I was smoking, I was drinking, I was just kind of trying to numb all of those emotions and all of those feelings, and still be with friends. And like it was so weird. Like when I look back, I can see how much I was struggling, even to the point that like I ended up, getting in trouble and just ending up going into prison. So that was like less than 6 months after that death, I was like essentially caught a case. Do you know what I mean? And I was like, now when I look back, I just realized I was spiraling. Like I didn't care about anything. I became more angry, more violent. And yeah, so I would say that was a very life-changing moment in my life. That was 2011. 2019, another friend of mine, that year, actually, 2019, I say the feeling was different because I lost 5 people in that year. And each person, so 3 out of the 5 were close to me. The other 2 are kind of like affiliates, and I was on holiday each time. So I'd be away and get a phone call, and I'm like enjoying myself, having a good time, or the first time anyway. My friend passed of cancer, and he's a very, very close friend of mine. And throughout his process, like he told me when, like, not too long after he got diagnosed, and I was kind of on that journey with him, going to hospital, feeding him, just trying to help essentially. And I remember when I went away, he had come out of hospital, and we were like, things are looking up. And I will always like kind of remember these, like, there's little moments or decisions that you make or you don't make that kind of stay with you. And I remember kind of remembering, like, why didn't I call him? Why didn't I FaceTime? Why didn't I just thought he was all right, kind of thing. And I was just kind of on holiday, living my life. So when I got the news, that was like, the earth stopped. It felt like it was happening again. It was more like that. And I remember going into this mode where I was like, okay, last time that took me to prison. Like I was depressed, so much was going on, so I need to not go down that journey, kind of thing. But then the next month I was on holiday, got a phone call. It was my auntie passed. And I remember just being like, and that holiday was a party holiday, so I was kind of like, wow, okay. And I just kind of put it to the side. But then I realized later on in the year that I had a lot of anxiety about going away, because every time I went away, I'd get Yeah.
Interesting.
So I was always, it was weird. It was like,
Yeah.
is it me? Like, and you know, like intellectually, I know it's not.
Yeah.
It's not me. Like,
Yeah.
what am I doing?
But it's the
But it was like-
association.
Yeah,
It's
but
the
it was
association
like,
that you don't. Yeah.
okay, if I leave the country, is someone else gonna like? So I remember the first time I left and nothing happened. It was like, okay, I can like, So I think anxiety was a huge emotion that followed after that second wave of death. So it's different every time, but I think I was so wrapped up in anxiety for the following deaths outside of like my very close friend that I almost don't think I processed any of them. Yeah.
Did you tell anyone like that's how you felt? Like even no.
No. So even when I was on holiday, I was with friends, and I was like, you say men. Yeah, I remember like I was on holiday. I'm like, oh yeah, yo, I just got a call like my auntie, you know, gone. Obviously they're like, are you alright? And I'm like, yeah, man, it's cool. And then like next day we partied. We went to the party like the next hour, like, and I think no. So I didn't really tell anyone. I didn't actually know that's how I was feeling until I went to therapy.
Yeah.
So I was. It's in hindsight now I can say, oh, this is how I felt. At the time, I wouldn't even know what to name it to tell anyone. Do you know what I mean? So I hate to believe that like men and women process it differently, but I know that men deal with emotions in a particular way.
I think it's the way we've been like kind of like nurtured. It may not be in nature, but because we've been so systematically nurtured in very different ways, I feel like it does play a part in how things kind of like play out. Like it's so interesting. I think for everyone that's spoken so far, like that. Almost like that call to action once, like dealing with the grief, or that need to like just get things, you know, cracking or to make things happen. And I can see how how it plays out in different ways. You know what I mean? If you're a young man that is on road, you know what I mean, and you've experienced the grief, how the next step is just to make moves that can potentially lead you into ending up in jail. Versus, you know, dealing with it on a personal level or as an adult, as a woman, or just someone else, you know, in a different environment, and how that plays out differently. Because I know a lot of people will like throw themselves into work. And then Mami Yinka, you were talking about how like looking after Bolati Fair and just like getting into that mode. And I think even for myself, like when my mum passed, I said, I'm booking every holiday that I can book. I'm booking it, because that was like my way of coping it. I think because I had dealt with grief and trauma from the age of maybe like 13, 15, but more so grief in the sense of I was grieving myself. I'd been through a lot of things personally, and 16 to 18, I went through like a really traumatic experience, where from 18 to 21, I was really grieving myself. Grieving the loss of myself and loss of who I'd been. And I think having been through that experience previously, I kind of knew that, again, through therapy, I knew that actually it's so important for me to feel. Otherwise, I do end up risking not feeling anything at all and blocking out everything just to kind of like stay sane in a way, or it's kind of like stay sane. So I think when my mum passed, I said that every emotion, feeling, that is I'm gonna feel it all. If I cry on the bus, I'm gonna cry on the bus. If I want to vomit when I'm crying, I'm gonna vomit when I'm crying. I made the decision to feel all of it, so that at least I know that I've done it justice. Because I think even like having a long-term grief, or a grief that kind of like plays out over a long time, I think from the day that I found out the diagnosis, I was grieving immediately.
Yeah, of course.
Like going to the hospital and they're saying that the treatment isn't working, grieving. Mum would be shouting at me saying, "Why are you crying? Stop crying." Mum, what are you doing? What is there to cry for? This is a serious thing. Do you know what I mean? I want to cry, I don't cry. But she used to get angry at me for crying. Please. I used to get angry at her back for confronting me I shouldn't cry. So like, that. And then I think caring for someone as well. I think there's a lot of emotions that come with having to care for someone that is ill. Like, because of the treatment, the chemo, she wasn't eating as much. And it's like, okay, I felt like I was like raising like a child almost, like, oh, can you eat your food? Mom, you're not eating enough. Mom, you're not drinking enough. Mom, she was like, oh, I don't want to, I don't like it. And I think even that, you know, comes with like a level of like frustration and anger that a lot of people feel guilty about. And I definitely felt guilty about. Like, I remember one time, because I used to take her for massages, like medical massages for her legs and stuff. And I remember there was one time we was coming back from massage and she was walking slowly. But we had to go and catch our train. So, Mom, can you put some pep in your step? Like, can you please walk faster? And she was saying to me, I'm trying. But at that time, I was just thinking, Mom, we have a train to catch. But I'm not necessarily thinking about, actually, this is someone that's navigating, do you know what I mean, pain. I'll see, like, can you be more, I don't know, mindful of that? And I think, looking back, I think there's a lot of guilt that I dealt with as well. Especially I think being a Christian as well, because it's like, or maybe if I prayed enough, I didn't do enough midnight prayers. I should have fasted with her. I should have done that thing. I think with guilt, especially, I think with the other emotions, with like anger, etc., and even anger towards the doctors. Like, why didn't you guys? Like, why did you stop feeding her so early on? Like so much anger and stuff like that. I think those emotions I could kind of like process, but I think with the guilt, especially, I didn't even try to process guilt, because I just said to myself, there's no point in entertaining it. Like, I could sit there and think to myself, oh, I could have done this, I should have done that, I should have done this. But I said, I give myself maybe like 1 minute to think about guilt, and then that 1 minute I said, I have to let it go, because otherwise if I start to think about it and dwell on it, like, I'll end up in such a deep hole. But if everything else, I think everything else, like the general emotions, the sadness, the disbelief, I think I let it kind of like play out over time. Guilt is anyone I don't even touch. I don't look at, I don't listen to, I don't engage with at all. But yeah, my coping mechanism was definitely enjoyment. Like, and I know that people, one of my cousins apparently was talking about me.
Her mother died
and she's going to Ghana. Why she's going to go and enjoy herself? And for me, it was just like, what else? What else will I do?
That's how you could
sit at home.
Cope.
Yeah.
That's how you were able to cope.
You have to keep yourself busy, I think.
It's so interesting, because I'd think the opposite. If I like, it's like if I saw, okay, so with Jacob's dad, he was working in LA, and so he had to fly in for the birth, and then like the next day after like I gave birth, he had to fly back, and I didn't see him for months later. And then like obviously in LA, like you're just partying and stuff, but I'm like here having to deal with like the logistics. So it was just like, how can we possibly have the same loss but such a different experience? Completely different experience. And I think from that I never understood it, because we can't understand each other's grief. And I think that's where you can really break down things. But then that later, it's like I always used to just, when I had my time to like really digest things, I'd just take myself out, like whether it be like to the cinema by myself or like go out to like different social events. Like I'd sign up to every single thing. Yep, it's free, like I'm going. Or like, oh, that's like a networking event, I'm going. You know, just to surround myself with like different people and different experiences, just to get myself like out of my head a little bit. But it's funny, like there's no way of this is what you should do, this is what you shouldn't do. It's just that's how you feel in that moment, and just going for that.
Yeah, there's no black and white way.
I say to myself, I don't even think I know what anger is really, with regards to. I was surprised, I was shocked. I wasn't angry because when you, as a Christian, you know when you go to church and church goes through you. That's when I knew the church went through me. I just didn't go into church, you know. I knew that I did not budge from my phrase of God is in control. He knows why. And as I said, when my husband died, when I was told he died, because I was in Tampa doing what I love best, partying. Yeah? And my children, I had taken my last money, my shares, I'd sold them. I said, we're going to go and celebrate this, my friend's 40th at the time. And my friend's husband had the children. So I said, I have no money. I'm going to get us there. After that, you people pay. So, no money. I used my last share, sold them. I said, we are going on this holiday. And so when we went, I was in Tampa, and the party was the following day. So I was sharing a room with a friend, and she woke up in the middle of the morning, early morning, about 5 o'clock, and she started speaking in tongues. And she was crying, started crying. I said, and I woke up, what the heck is wrong with this woman? You know, at that time, I was like, what's going on? And then something in my spirit told me, she's crying for you. And then but I just laid on my back. And meanwhile, she told me after that she, Holy Spirit was telling her, go and put your hands on her and tell her that I brought you guys together for a purpose. You are all together in this place for a purpose. And my friend saying, of course, she was battering with the world that, I know that, we're all here for the party. He said, do what I said. So I felt her come and put her hands, and said, God said that we're here, we're all together for a purpose. And I said, okay, fine, thank you. I know that, but and then she just prayed and went to the gym. I then when she left, something to get up, and I started praying. As I started praying, I started crying in the spirit. Saying, something's wrong somewhere. But I didn't even know I was that strong, So when I woke up in the morning, meanwhile, my husband had died. My friend's phone, that the number they had was off because she was charging her phone. So people all knew in London before I knew that my husband was dead. But when she switched on the phone, and the phone said, there was calls from my sister and from a friend. And she said, she has many calls from these people. So I'm standing next to her because I'm already on alert that something's wrong. So when she phoned the person, my sister back, and my sister said, are you with my sister? And she said, yes, can you move away from her? So she started, I said, where are you going? She said, no, the reception's bad. She needs to go and hear. She can't hear properly. So she went outside. And she didn't come back. And then she said, so I'm sitting there, and I'm telling another friend I'm having breakfast. I said, there's something wrong with my husband. There's something wrong. She said, don't be silly. I said, nothing wrong with your husband. I said, there's something wrong. She said, anyway, so another friend went out to check. She didn't come back. So I'm sitting there, and anyway, they went and they planned a story that's even no Nollywood blockbuster. You understand? Yeah. And they came back to me and said, all is well? That, her husband, who's looking after my children, said he's not doing the marriage anymore. Yeah? He said him and my friend are over, that he's done. He's out, he's gone. I said, he's gone where? With my children in their house? I said, stop it, and that was what they told me. And then they said, so I said to my friend, so my friend said to me that she's just not, she has to go back, So my other friend said to me, well, you came with her because we came together. They all came from London and different places. So and because she was pregnant, heavily pregnant, she said, you can't let her go back by herself. I said, who said? This is me, because I'm a party. I love parties. I got everybody to that party, right? And then you're now telling me I used my last dollar to come and stop the party, not go to the party, and follow her back. I said, no. So you can imagine what they were going through at the time. So, and I said, okay, I'm going to go pray about it, And I prayed and I said, okay. And I came back, I said, okay, if you get the ticket, if you can get a ticket, I'll go. But they'd already bought the ticket. Before I didn't even know they bought the ticket. So then they said they bought it. Go in the bath. Come on. You have to get the planes, And that's how I found myself at the airport. Got to the airport, and I said to my friend, so we're there because we're last minute ticket. Apparently those are suspect tickets. Right. So they started searching us left, right, and centre. I was getting so agitated, and then got to on the plane. Then the plane refused to go. So I'm sitting there, I said, if this plane does not move in the next 1 hour, I'm getting off this plane. Of course I couldn't. But that in my head, I couldn't. Anyway, eventually got back to wherever we were going, LA. And my friends sister, my friend's husband met us, and I said to him, you know, what's going on? You know, we said, I don't know, Yinka, but it is well, you know. And then I got back to my friend's house. No, then he said, do you want to eat? I said, no. I said, okay, but they bought me the biggest wimpy ever. You know, extra large. Because they knew I wasn't going to eat anymore. And I said, why did you buy me such a big thing? You know, he said, just eat what you can. Okay, we got back to the house.
Wow.
And then I see, you know, they have a click in, you know, and the click were there. And I'm saying, why are you broadcasting their business? You know, it was going to try and resolve the issue because I introduced them, you know, when they met themselves through me. I said, we can resolve this ourselves, you know. And then they all came in and everybody sit down. And then she went to go and sit on the dining table. You know, America, they're big houses, miles away from me. I said to my friend, come and sit down. It's you we're here for, right? To show you how they had cleared my brain that from where I was before, knowing that there was something, I didn't, all that had gone out of my head. So we sat down and she said, so there was like 4 of them there, apparently for themselves. The first person was to pray. The second person was to tell me. That was my friend's husband that they told, yeah? I came back from Tampa. I then got to the, sat there and they prayed, okay. Then the person said he couldn't do it. So he too prayed. So then I got to this, I said, why are you all praying for me? Why are you praying? Let's do that, it's enough prayer. And then the third person said to me, she goes, Yinka, it is with deep regret that we have to tell you that Ekpe has passed away. I said, excuse me? Ekpe who? And I looked at my friends and you bought me Wimpy. And then I just lost it, you know. But at the time, the boys were upstairs. So I wept, and then after I got over myself, they'd given me drugs too before I didn't even know they'd drugged me too. And they brought the boys down, and then they told the boys, you know, and then, I mean, they just went from my little boy, you know, they just went, Etim just went for my youngest, you know, and everybody was just distraught. But after that, it was like whirlwind. It was like they just took over, if you get what I mean. Right, now, what's happening? Have you got travel insurance? You've got this, you've got that. Are your tickets changeable? They were not changeable. Nothing was changeable. I bought the cheapest ticket possible. So then they're sitting there with a dilemma in the middle of August. How are they going to get us back to London? And my husband was in Nigeria. You know, so it was... I didn't have time to process much. You know, all I know is that they took over. My friends took over, and and they bought us brand new tickets. They upgraded us to business class. They brought my sister in from LA. They did so much. And by the time I got back to London, they'd already planned everything. Before I knew it, tickets for Nigeria, off to Nigeria, everything was done. So I was like, as you know, I didn't have time. It was just boom, 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 boom. And then, of course, my son that was going to go to school in Nigeria had no school in London. And the next thing was, okay, we have to, you know. So I was on a...
Auto mode, yeah.
Yes, I just had to do what was, you know. My husband used to take them to school. I used to go to work, you know. I never used to take them anywhere. They didn't even know me in the school.
Yeah.
Do you understand? So I had to just adapt my whole process, my mindset, you know. But at the end of the day, I never ever, as my son says, he said he never see me cry. I used to cry in church, you know, because I used to see, he was one of those proper people. He liked to sit downstairs in the church, me, I like up, yeah? But he would sit where I can see him, you know, and I'd look at him. When I look at him, sometimes he would have dozed off on the chair, and I would look at him and he would just, you know, when I'm looking at him, he would look up and he would just say, So when I look down and I don't see him, a tear or so, that's it, and I'll just flick it, you know, and that's just me. But, you know, life for me after death, how did I survive? It's my family and my friends. They're the ones that just took over and supported me. You know, I mean, my child never lacked. My youngest child had father figures that came from nowhere. And, you know, and it was prophesied over his life at his dedication. And, you know, I just did my 60th, and I was giving thanks for the people that helped me along the way. And, you know, how God can bring people. And, you know, you call them, they're not related to you.
Yeah.
They don't know you.
Yeah.
And that's one thing about grief. You know, it's the people that you don't expect
Yeah, honestly.
that will come
That's true.
and support
That is
you.
so true.
The ones you expect, you know, and I said, my friend told me, don't expect anything from anybody. Because
Literally.
you will be disappointed.
Yes.
You know, and that's generally, for me, it's been, my testimony is my friendship group and my family. You know, they just, you know, child care, who's having him this week, who's having him that week, and that's how it was. But I was never annoyed with God. That's one thing I never was. Because I knew, when you are in tune with the Lord, He will share things with you as time goes on.
Yeah.
And you get it.
Yeah.
Do you understand?
Yeah.
You just know, I said he had to go then.
Yeah.
I knew why he had to go at that point in time. And I was at peace with it. Whether my children now, they fed off of me. However, when it comes to your children, that's a different ballgame.
Yes, it is.
And because they fed off of me, I don't believe they grieved properly. So they had what you call delayed grief. And it came out in different ways as they grew older.
Yeah.
So that's something that, you know, when I tell people, I say, man, you need to get the children therapy and stuff. No matter how they come across, you know, you may be good, they may be good, but it's always good to have that therapy for them to have one-on-one.
Yeah.
Because I was such a strong person, they just fed off me. And, you know, I think the first time they cried I saw them cry was at their dad's 10-year memorial. So, but each person's different. And I say to people, do not tell anybody how to grieve.
Yeah.
Don't let anybody tell you how to grieve.
Yeah.
Your grief is your grief. You know, don't anybody tell you that's like, you should be jumping up and down and you should be rolling on the floor.
Yeah.
No, yeah.
Your grief is your grief.
Yes.
Yeah.
Let go. Yes, Tony.
No, because when you was talking, when you were sharing about your friends and the story that they made up and all the effort that they made to get you from A to B without telling you what was going on, it just made me think about my experience when I was on holiday and I was away for about a week, and I had left, and my friend had left hospital and he was doing better, but he went back in and he was in there for about a week. And then I found out that he died through someone outside of my friendship group. And then I called them and they were like, we didn't want to tell you because you're on holiday. And so I was super angry. I was like very resentful for a while because I was thinking like, even if you said, oh, he's in hospital now, it's not looking good, he might have like 2 days. They knew that information and I didn't because I was away. So when you was like, you know, no resentment, none of I had to really work through that in therapy and talk to them as well and say, you know, you can't. So similar to what you're saying, you can't tell people how to grieve, but also you can't control that process for them. I feel like sometimes someone's got to say, this is what's going on, you know.
And sometimes they may not do it the right way.
Yeah.
Some people just
you have to have grace for that as well.
Boom. I say, ah.
Yeah.
And some people just don't know how to.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, like, people don't know because they're not you, and they want to protect you in a sense and want to try to like ease the load or any way they can, and it might not be your way of doing it, but it's just that sometimes people just don't know. And like I remember it's like people just didn't know even like after people die, like what to say, like or like how to address it. And then there'd be times when I even, if someone went through what I did, like, and there are so many women that go through like what I've been through as well, sometimes even knowing what's happened, I still would struggle of what to say to someone. I end up saying the stuff that like people said to me. So it's really interesting, that dynamic, like it's just you don't know what to say and you just have to like, you know, give it grace, I would say, like sometimes.
But it's that thing, like you said, no one actually knows what to say, even when you go through it. And I remember like always saying to people, because there were people that I was super close with, and when my close friends passed, I know that they didn't know what to say or how to support me, but it meant that they disappeared. They just went for months, and then like they come back around like, oh, you doing better, and I'm like,
better. When you're worse.
Why are you back? Like, do you know what I mean? And it's hard. It's like I think grief is like a space where it's probably the space that I'm learning to exercise grace the most, because no one knows. You know? So.
Yeah, grace is so needed.
One of my best friends, I remember like, because I think we can like kind of talk about like support systems and how we've been supported and how we think, not how we think people should be supported, but the ways that we've been supported and the things that have been impactful for us. One of my friends, she would make a point where she would just come to my house. Are you okay? I'm fine. And I won't want to say, I'm not okay. Why are you even asking me for? Leave me alone. But she'll come, are you okay? They would just sit there in silence. And I think I think there takes a willingness to be present during the uncomfortableness and the awkwardness. And I think a lot of people aren't willing to sit in that awkwardness or sit in that uncomfortability to just hold space with you during that time. But my friend used to do it all the time. Are you okay? Yes. Yes, for the 5th time, I'm okay.
What Tony said earlier, when he said, you know, his age, your age, maturity,
makes a difference.
It makes a difference. You know, at this age now, you know, I've got all sorts of experiences, and you know what to say and what not to say. You know, I mean, at the time when my friend, you know, I have a very good friend, awesome woman, and we were at the memorial service, right? And she kept on doing this to me, and it was annoying. You know, it was like, I had to go because I knew she meant well. You know, I could enjoy it. You know what I mean? Because she thinks she's doing me well, but it wasn't. But you know, as I said, different people. That's how they think you need. You know, you know, hugging you. I don't need to hug you.
I think people just use whatever method or whatever comes to mind to try and support people at that difficult time. Because honestly, you don't know. You don't know.
I think I've learned, is to ask people. Like I know that nowadays we're big on consent. Oh, consent. Can I hold your hand? Can I do this? But even like now, can I hug you? Do you like hugs? Do you like? Do you need to follow you to the toilet? Because the kind of person I am, when I'm dealing with like feelings of upset, I don't want anyone to look at me. Don't talk to me. Don't touch me. Let me deal with it by myself. And then when I'm ready, I'll come back. Whereas some people, they like people to hold them. So even now, asking people like, how are you? Like, do you want? Should I leave you to it? Do you want a hug? Should I sit with you? Let the person ask for themselves. For me, I'm so grateful. One, I'm grateful that I have siblings. I think when like navigate my mum's cancer, like I was at home, kind of like doing the physical care and stuff like that. And so once she had passed, everything else, organize, tombstone, headstone, guys, that's all your job. You guys take care of that, and I've done my part. You guys do your part. And I think having that was really supportive. And also my friends made me like hampers. They sent to my house, which I was like, wow, all these are gifts and stuff. That was so sweet. One of my friends gave me like a voucher, 20 pounds voucher to go and get massages. All those little things I think were so like impactful. Even like delivery vouchers. I go and order myself food. I put on weight.
You know what I mean?
Honestly, someone just
honestly, you know, sacks of rice, pots of stew. In my case, oh my God, I you know, we must give it to the Nigerian culture, to our culture. You know, people when it comes to supporting you. At the time, they come. You know, it's there, but it's the aftermath. We're not people generally, and I say to people, like, when they say to me in what I do, this person's died, lost her husband, lost her whatever, and I say you should go. No, it's not the time. Everybody's there now. It's after when everybody's gone back to their jobs and there's nobody there. That's when we come in. You know, that's when the person needs the support. Because with the best will in the world, You know, everybody else has got a life to live.
Yeah,
You know, your
exactly.
family is your family, and you know, generally, if you got a good family, they will support you. But you know, every friends go back. You know, and it's after, you know, maybe 3 months down the line, then it's time to go in and support them and see how they are.
Yeah. No, seriously, it's so important. Like my doula, even after, like, she just like be at the house and like cook me food, and it's just like when you're so exhausted, you can't eat, you're not staying hydrated, like everything's just, you'd have no energy. So it's like those small mundane things that, you know, you're not able to do, is like that's when like the help and support is really, really useful.
Even people are remembering, like whenever someone passes that I know of, I always put the date in my diary so that, you know, whenever the date comes around, I can say, resend them a message, because I think even like that those check-ins that actually someone's remembered this person's life.
No, honestly,
it's so important. I think
it is. And I think for me, I like the Nigerian, I don't want to call it African, because not all Africans are that supportive, but the Nigerian support system, I really appreciate it, because everybody comes round, even after, you know, the funeral and things start going quiet, you still find at least 2 or 3 that are still consistent, that will still support you, talk to you all through, and always check in.
Oh, there's one thing that I don't like about the Nigerian thing though, because I go to like a predominant Nigerian church, is that whenever they see me, you miss your mom, don't you? It's like random Sunday.
That's ignorance. That's ignorance.
Your mom was a great woman. It's like, I just wanted to come to church and go home. Not that.
I think for that, what I would say is, I think it's the individuals. Maybe they don't know what to say. And you know,
they're still thinking of them as well.
For me, I wouldn't do that, because I'll think, you know, you're just making this person remember their parent again, missing them more, and could push them back to grieve mode again. And quite a few people I have known grieving go into depression mode. They're angry, you know, it's like they're searching for meaning, and that meaning is not coming in for them. And you say, go for counseling. In our community, Nigerian community, they don't agree with counseling. Someone like me, I didn't go for counseling with all these griefs I've had. But the way I have coped with it, I internalize things, I withdraw within myself, and once my children have gone to sleep, the house is quiet, that's when I'll cry myself to sleep. And that was soothing for me, because I keep processing that, you know, yes, I'm a social worker, and I have to sit in front of, you know, in the presence of someone, talk about what's happened, what would they do for me. And of recent, I started reflecting, and I'm saying, no, Hadiza, it's not what they would do for you. Even you being able to open up and talk about it is therapeutic.
Yes.
You know, so I have to sort of reset my brain to say, no. Growing up in Nigeria and having all those strong culture, values and ethics, you don't be saying no. For us, we associate counseling to somebody that has gone cuckoo. You know? You know, you say, there's something there. No. We don't see counseling as being therapeutic, that you could gain something from. They're not going to tell you what to do. But you offloading alone, it's a lot. It's a lot. And my time, I didn't. I internalized everything. It's just of recent I started talking. I speak to the girls. My girls would see, just like you said earlier, that your children sort of followed you. They fed off you. That's how my daughters did as well. I could you know, relate with what you've said, because recently they've started talking that you never actually talked or spoke about that. And I said in my mind, I did. But later I reflected, I said, oh yes, I didn't, because I was trying to protect them. That's my way of protecting them, that, you know, I'm the mother, I'm the father now. I'll make sure I step in the two shoes and make sure you guys are okay. But that's not what they wanted. It's years back, maybe just 2 or 3 years back, I started understanding that I wish I had spoken more. All I do is their father's anniversary, his birthday, I'll say, oh, it's your dad's. It was his birthday 2 days ago. I think it was on the 7th, you know, and I said, oh, is that a day before? Yeah. I said,
That's Jacob's birthday. On the 6th, Jacob's birthday, so a day before.
The 11th.
Okay.
So
Yeah,
I would say, you know,
He dies
it's Dad's
yesterday, tomorrow.
birthday. It's Dad's birthday tomorrow.
Yeah.
You know, and his anniversary as well. I would a day before would say, what are we doing? You know, time to go out for a meal together, just want to talk about him and share things. And I think my eldest daughter it really affected her. It really affected, because she was very close. She was a daddy's girl. You know, she's the kind of child that would misbehave, go cuckoo when her father is there, thinking, yes,
My dad.
my dad is here, you can't touch him.
Yeah.
So when he passed, the primary school she was at the time, they were quite good, because she was always talking about daddy, daddy, daddy. So fortunately, she was having counseling in school. They really supported her. And for her, up till now, she's blanked it. She can't remember her dad, and she was almost 10.
Wow.
That you think she would remember. She can't. She said,
blanked
no.
him.
No, she blanked
She can't
it.
remember.
She can't. She
Yeah.
can't.
Wow.
She can't remember. And, you know, she's had counseling. I don't know if that has brought that back for her now. But
Something might like trigger
trigger.
the memory
but,
or
she doesn't remember.
Yeah.
When I tell her you were so close with your dad, she said, "Mom, I can't remember." You
That
know.
was her coping
Yeah.
mechanism at the
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
She just
Yeah.
blanked it off.
I think
Yeah.
sometimes
And
that
I
happens.
felt guilty
Yeah.
that, you know, I wish I could have done better, but I did what I did then because I didn't want to upset them.
Yeah.
So I managed the situation to the best of
Yeah.
my ability, and all the love
Yeah.
I had. My life was just the girls. I don't go out for parties. I don't do nothing.
Also,
That my life was
you
just
needed
them.
that. You needed that structure regardless, like because you still had to raise a family. So it would have been like either you was able to talk and offload and express all your grief, like, but then you would still need to carry your family as well. So it would have been like either you had that balance where sometimes you have to take up like 2 roles or whatever, and then, you know, be able to later down the line, probably when they're able to, you're able to articulate it in the way that you want to express it. But it's like either way, there's no wrong or right way of doing it. Like if you was too like overly emotional and couldn't get yourself together, then you wouldn't be able to raise them. And if you was like, you know, it's just you needed that balance, and you can always learn lessons later,
Yeah.
and
Which
that's
was
okay,
done
and that's
now.
what's now, and
But nobody plans it. You can't. Nobody prepares you for
No
for
one.
death,
Yeah.
unexpected death.
You just had
So
to do
you
what you
had to
needed
do
then.
what you knew.
I was 33 years old.
I mean, that's
So young.
And when I think of
Yeah.
that,
Me,
that's
that
like
almost
3
30.
years.
Yeah.
That's like a few years away from where. So
Three
yeah,
years old. I didn't know my life. I just sat down. I was saying, God, like you said, you know, what was your own?
God is in control.
God is in control.
Yeah.
I said, God knows best.
Yeah.
I said, definitely God knows best, because this was not my plan.
Yeah.
Then I'll just sit down, just making sure these girls are fine. I'll work so hard, make sure they go on holidays, so that I fill in the gap that, you know, children that have the 2 parents, they don't miss out on that. So every holiday, I take them away, make sure they're well, and I neglected myself. It was so bad that I had to cut my hair very low, that I can't be wasting money, you know, to make my hair.
yeah,
It's my daughters. It was just them. My mom then would say, no, this is, you know, you're taking it to the extreme. It's okay. And I had good support system there. My mom was super. She was there for me all through. So her sudden death as well just crushed me. That, you know, why did you have to go now?
yeah.
Because she was well. She was fine. Nothing was wrong with her.
I think my support system was definitely like my family, like my mum and I had like my sisters and one of my best friends. She has been there like consistently. Even like the other day on his birthday, it's just that we both had to cry because when we couldn't even talk to each other. It was only message because we actually couldn't like talk to each other on the phone because of how much of the gravity that she took as well as me. It was just so consistent, and I'd always just like give thanks because thank you, like how can a person be so consistent with like one person's grief? And a lot of the time it was like, I think I had, because a lot of my friends as well had kids at that time as well. One of my other best friends, she was pregnant at the same time as me. It's almost like I had to distance myself as well.
Yeah, because of,
it's really, really, really tricky, and I had to make new friends. And it was interesting because those new friends don't even know how much they've like shifted my life and expanded my world in like so many ways. And it doesn't necessarily have to be like the support of the grief. It's just like, wow, like, you've given me like another perspective. Exactly. And I never saw anything out of that because I was definitely depressed. Like there was a lot of times I felt really suicidal, like just wanted to give up. And one of my other friends, like I remember calling my counsellor. She gave me like the Samaritan's number, and I remember like one time I definitely needed it, and it was like 3 a.m. in the morning, and I couldn't get through to them. And I literally just took like one call on my friend, and he picked up like straight away, and that stayed on the phone for like hours. And it was that moment where it's just like, wow, if he didn't pick up, who knows what would have happened. And it's just, he didn't even need to say anything. He's just there. And it's just like, wow, like, thank you so much. And it's just those moments, someone at each moment has just saved me in some sense. Like it doesn't have to be like so consistent, they're there every day saying how are you. It's just someone at some moment in this journey of like whatever we're going through has just saved me. Like whether it be work, you've saved me, you've given me an opportunity, wow, like you've just said something that's just sparked something in me, or just anything. That support system is so needed. And therapy was definitely one thing that I was able to talk about that I couldn't even talk about to my family. So it was able to allow me to express just whether I wanted to talk about Jacob, whether I wanted to talk about the relationship at the time, my relationship to myself with like motherhood, feeling seen, heard, like not thinking that what I'm feeling is like silly or stupid or unnecessary, because there's a lot of shame that comes with like losing a child as well. And it's also this taboo that's not a taboo that people don't talk about, but I will talk about it each and every day if someone asks me. Like it's just one of those things. So it's just, I think my support was definitely, it was called Petals. It was from like the hospital where they give you. And then after that, I couldn't afford actually my therapy as well because I wasn't working in the time. This is like another thing, like where am I even getting money from? So they gave me some sessions, and then when that ran out, like I was just like trying to pay for like other therapists to see, and that just wasn't working for me. So I went back to her, but she had like her own private practice, but also like discounted me, like because obviously she knew me, and it just, even just the smallest amount of like a discount off of a therapy session for like an hour just saved like everything. Like it just builds that trust, and you know that you're supported and someone is just there for you.
And that's why, this is about there was a widow that I was referred to, and she kind of lost her mind. Literally, she lost her mind. And I went, when you're sitting with the person and she's talking, what the heck is this woman talking about? She'd gone, and it really affected her. And my friend said to me, this is past you. you can't do this, and I still saw her sister the other day. I said, how is she doing? She said, not good, not good. And that's with a supportive family. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But I think for generally when you come across people who are going through grief, and you're there, you want to help. A good question is, how are you? Who have you got? I mean, just find out who they've got, because some people don't have a lot of support.
At all.
And also saying it in that way, like, how are you, instead of, are you okay?
Yeah.
That's my
Because
question. I love
it's
that
very
question.
different.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
The energy is different from
Yeah.
saying, when people say, are you okay?
Mm.
They don't really hear if you're not.
Yeah.
Are you okay?
Yes or
Are
no?
you
Yeah.
like just
Yeah.
like, is it good? Like,
Yeah.
rather than like, how are you? Like, how are you
Yeah.
really feeling? Like,
And not the
it
Jesus
opens up.
response.
Yeah.
The Jesus response, to God be the glory. Thank
Yeah.
God, by His grace.
Mm.
So when you finish saying that, I said, okay, let's start again.
Mm.
How are you?
Yeah.
Stop that. Remove the shades.
Yeah.
How are you?
Yeah.
And you'll be amazed the response you will get.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I add the feeling. I
How
go.
are
I
you
don't
feeling?
ask how are you. I say how are you
feeling?
That's
Yeah.
another one.
You know.
Yes.
You know,
It's
when I put that feeling, then you see the person takes a big breath. Well,
because they
breath.
need to go in.
and
Yeah.
take a big and
Then it starts.
it depends on the emotion you get.
Yeah.
You either break down,
Yeah.
start crying, or they're in sober mood
Yeah.
and they start opening up. This is what's happening. You know, they're still struggling and things. So you know, it's
I think now I do wonder if like what support looks like for this generation, that you know communities are becoming more fragmented, people are being separated from their families,
Yep.
you know, money, like you said, there's a lot of like poverty, that means therapy isn't accessible. Even this little things like treating yourself is not accessible for people. Like I do wonder how people are managing and coping with grief nowadays. Obviously, there always be people that are supported, but then I think there's so many more people that are gonna go unsupported just based off of kind of like shifts in society and stuff. And I feel like even you've like working in prisons and stuff, like for those that you are meeting, like what are some of those challenges, or
It's tricky. It's so hard because I feel like being of Nigerian culture, the adults in our culture are almost carrying the community aspect of it. And I always wonder, like, when that generation transitions, what are we going to do? Because we're not having, obviously, money, things have changed. We can't have the whole parties in the way that they used to. Or just the community spirit of, like, coming together and cooking and making sure there's food when people are grieving. And so, yeah, there are a lot of people, men in prisons, who they end up there because they're not processing emotions. And some of those emotions are grief, right? So it's like, and so they've hurt people along the way, whether it's their partners, their family, their friends. So there is disconnect in that sense. But then in order for them to change their lives, they also have to disconnect from people they used to be with, right? So coming out, it's sort of like, what are you coming into? You know, you almost have to go on this solo journey of rebuilding your life, but also trying to grieve. And a lot of men are just not grieving like that. That's the part we just ignore it so we can actually get on with life, you know. But I think I'm lucky enough to be part of a community of men who have experienced grief, have experienced prison, and are navigating and doing things in their lives that we're able to go back in, and we go as groups, go back into prisons, visit men, sit with them and just talk, you know. And it's not specifically around grief, but because I've had that experience, I know that grief is not just death. Like it's what you said, right? It's
trauma,
it's letting go of yourself, it's letting go of your old life, you know.
even your dreams, aspirations,
Literally.
All of that, do
Yeah.
you know what I mean? So yeah, it's tricky, but I think the big thing that I'm trying to push in this like generation, would I say, is therapy. Like, because especially for men, talking therapy, because we don't really talk, and we've all kind of said that we don't really talk to each other. We don't talk. We don't.
Sorry,
I know you're confused.
I'm not confused.
Okay.
I'm very clear.
Okay.
Because I have 3 boys.
Okay.
You know,
no, it's the
and-
face you made was like, why? It's almost like,
It is
why?
why.
It is why, right?
You know, but you know, you look at the boys. I said to my boys, you have friends. You ask, women. So your friend, you know, what course did he study in university? What is his or this? I don't know. I said, but you're his friend. You're a very close friend. I can't remember, Mum.
Yeah.
Do you know, the basic things of life, of a friendship, you know. And sometimes you say, what's his surname?
They don't
Oh,
know.
he's,
Do you know-
oh, mom.
There is a thing about, I think there's a culture of like, with men, or I won't say all men, but I think like care is not something that we're taught or like, we're given it. Some of us are raised with care and love, and I grew up in a loving household. But then I remember like the first time I went to, like not the first time, but I went to a friend's birthday, and I brought him a card, and I wrote in the card, and when I took it there, the rest of them were like,
What are you doing, man?
yeah, they're like, bro, we don't do that. Like, you know what I'm saying? What are you doing? Like, that's a bit funny. But I'm just like, that's just what I know, innit? And so I just didn't do that anymore.
But
And-
that's
but I
what
was
you
like
should
16.
because like you're leading some. What someone told me is just like, okay, like if you want to do something, but you need to lead.
Yeah.
So once
Yeah.
you do that, in their own time, whatever point
Yeah, but
it
when
kind of
you're
clicks
young-
in a
Yeah,
life.
when you're young.
When you're young, you're like,
exactly,
I didn't know, I didn't know, right?
Of course, of course.
Yeah,
But
but
that
even
was
even in
right.
adulthood, like having certain conversations, when we talk about consent, when we talk about language around women, when we start questioning who we are as men, and you know, rejecting feminine traits and all of these things, if you're trying to have those conversations, very quickly you're just like, okay, you're different.
Yeah.
You know, we'll put you to the side, and I think
Yeah.
I've lost a lot of friends through challenging them and making them, trying to get them to see things differently, trying to get them to, you know, just be different. Just basically in the long and short of it. So
Are you still around the people that you was around in that time as well?
of loss?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are
Yeah,
you
some?
Are you able to talk more openly now to them?
So funnily enough, the group that so in 2019 when we lost someone, I went uni with them, and they were there when I lost my friend at 21, and they said to me, we're sorry, like, well, a couple of them, but there was one conversation I remember having, and he was like apologetic and said like, I actually now understand what you was going through then, and we just wasn't there for you. Like, we were there physically, but we just weren't there. Do you know what I mean? And so sometimes it is a shared experience of grief that allows you to have certain conversations. I'm learning as well, Grace, again, that everyone reaches stages differently. So there's some conversations that I wish people were ready for 10 years ago, but they're ready now. You know? And it's,
exactly.
do we have the patience and the grief to still be there when they're ready, kind of
And
thing?
also, like, maybe that is just your time that you had to experience that, because like now you have the maturity in a sense of you're able to hold space for other people and them as well, and being able to like lead and have like you can create spaces where, you know, people are able to be open at younger ages. And sorry, I wanted to ask, do you still do it like outside of prisons as well, or do you?
Schools. So trying to work in schools with boys who are typically labelled like trouble. Because we know you don't wake up troubled, right?
Yeah.
So there's things that are going on the surface, and I know that it's funny because someone I was having a conversation the other day, and they mentioned the violence and like loss of life that a lot of young men experience, and then you got to think about the people outside of it, and the young women and parents and families, and that's why I'm quite passionate about working in that space, because I'm like, what are we doing for them? Like how does a 15-year-old process grief, you know, in a way that isn't destructive or violent and carrying on cycles, you know? So
and I also think this generation of our children, I think culture plays a part as well. The mixture of the African culture and the English culture. The English way of grieving, it's private. And we, the African, is like we grieve together as a community. People come, you know, people would come. It's overwhelming for our white counterparts. So in reflection, I'm thinking, is the ability for them to be able to balance the two culture. Because you see some young people, they're trying to navigate between the African culture or the Nigerian culture, with the English culture. They don't agree with it, and it's like, as a parent, you have to break things down and explain. Like I say to my daughters, I said, you guys have to have a system in place that if there's any of your friends getting married, you have to make it a point of duty to give a gift to that friend of yours getting married. I said, I don't care if the others don't do it. You are doing it. With time, hopefully it will click. With our culture, if anything, if they're getting married or you lose someone, even if it's a pound, it's not the amount, it's the thought,
gesture.
the gesture, the thought behind it. You give. And that I have noticed we don't have with this generation.
You make a really good point about explaining it. Sometimes tradition is passed on, and I feel like we're in a generation where we've got so much access to information and internet that now we're questioning so many more things.
Yes.
So it's not enough to just say, do this thing, or this is how we do, or it's not enough for us to see our parents doing it. Now we kind of want to know more about where does that come from, why is it important. So I think you make a really good point about that.
So that's what I've done with my girls. I try to explain to them. Now one of my daughters is getting married, and every time any support comes, be it verbal or gift or whatever, I call them. I'll say to them, so and so person sent me this. Or this person said they contribute this. It's just for them to know that when I was doing it, they were looking at me that, oh, Mom, you can't save everybody because you're a social worker. I said, no, it's not that. I was raised with support. My mother raised so many children that I know hers. And I remember then, even as at my age then, I kept saying, oh, my mother is too much. And subconsciously, I'm doing what my mother is doing. I keep saying to myself, some of my friends' children would say, Auntie, you shouldn't have any child anymore. Having a child is that one of their friends will come, I get, warm up with them. They're lovely. I become like another mother figure. It's not that their mother is not there. Their mother is there, but they see me as somebody they can relate to. So I keep having children everywhere I go.
But that's in your nature.
Exactly.
To nurture, that is just your way of being,
They tell me I'm a nurturing, mother. So I just look at them and say, oh, again, Hadiza, not this again. But that's who I am. I can't help myself.
And also, some people need that. When we're talking about accessibility and expenses and things like that, sometimes it actually just needs your friend's mum or someone there to just do, because at least that's in their power at the moment to have you support them, just being present.
My best friend's mum. My best friend's mom's also Nigerian. My best friend's also Nigerian, and so when my mum passed, she was like, "Yeah, now you're gonna learn all the recipes from me. So come to my house, learn how to make okra, learn how to make jollof rice." So it's like she has taken on that mother figure. Even Nina came to your house to come and ask about jollof rice, how to prepare it. So, thank you. I guess before we close, it'd be nice if everyone could share We'll do one round first, a piece of advice that you would give to anyone that's grieving. And I think also one, or if multiple, one special memory of your loved one that you want to share with the world. So I'll start off with the advice. The piece of advice that I would give for other people navigating their grief would be to feel all your emotions as they come. And to let them properly out. That would be my piece of advice.
I think my advice would be I would say therapy, but I think my advice would be to allow people to support you, but really, so not the version that you're presenting, but actually just trusted people, allow them to support you.
And see you.
Yeah.
Well, it's really tricky. I would actually say allow yourself to just feel what you're feeling in that day, in that present moment, and just know it's okay. And if that feeling is not shifting or changing, go out for a walk or talk to a friend.
Mine would be for people to take a day at a time, or even hour to hour, because the way you're feeling at a particular time or day could be different. You know, allow yourself to grieve, and don't think you either crying or talking about the person is awkward. You know, if you want to cry, cry. If you want to scream, scream. Don't look at people around you. Do what is best for you. Express your emotions, because we're human, you know, and not internalize things. That would be my advice.
As I kind of said, it, basically what you're saying really for me is like, grief is grief. Yeah, but your grief is your grief, as I said earlier. And don't let anybody tell you how to grieve. Just grieve. Grieve your grief. Some people grieve, you know, their grief is quick. They get over things. Yeah. Some people it goes on for years. But your grief is your grief, and you know how you feel. So your job is to manage your grief with whatever support that you can get. That's really what I would say.
And then a memory of our loved one to share with everyone. I think my favorite memory probably of my mum is every morning her waking up at 6 a.m. and it's like I can just hear her movements around the house. So she'll wake up, she goes to the toilet, then she'll be humming, then she'll go and pray, and then she'll go and bath. That's like every morning her cycle. And I think that's probably like one thing that is so simple but that I miss completely, just to have someone humming in the morning and then turn on the shower and I can hear them praying. That's one thing that I miss about her.
Boy, I don't know. I don't even know. There's two people and two memories that mirror quite a bit. So two of my friends both were passed with cancer, and there's loads of different memories that are like fun and enjoyable, but I think these two were probably our most vulnerable times. And both times were just me sat with them while they were in their like hospice bed and just having some really our deepest conversations. But they still had joy and hope and like just a smile, and just so those two, I think, for me. Yeah.
Thank you.
Mine's actually one physical, one spiritual. So every morning, like at a certain time in my pregnancy, like he used to kick at 5 a.m. Honestly, it was the best feeling, but also the most annoying. Like I used to get annoyed at him so much. I can't even amount to it. And spiritually, I think after I gave birth to him, spending that time with him was like the best memory ever, because I was able to really see him in a physical form. And he was actually everything that I really did imagine. Like he was so big, he had really big feet, he had like so much curly hair and had like the most annoying heartburn. And spiritually, I would say like I feel like he has a sense of humor. Even on like his first anniversary, we was trying to light these lanterns, and honestly they were just burning like left, right and centre, and just obviously not going up at some point. And I just felt like it was just that kind of connection. It's like I knew he would have that kind of sense of humour, because that's what mimics my family as well. So yeah, no, those are like probably my best experiences with Jacob.
Thank you.
Mine is my mother's smile. She has this, she had this charming smile, and it's quite infectious. When you see her, it's a smile on her face, and you'll be tempted to, you would smile. And I miss her calls. At times I just speak out loud, and I keep saying, I'm sorry, Mom, because then she calls me often because I'm the eldest. And at times I'll tell her, I'll say, Onyam. I call her Onyam. In my dialect, Onyam means our mother. I'll say, Onyam, I'm not a baby anymore. You keep calling me. We just spoke, maybe 10 minutes ago. She's just called again. She's calling for nothing. She's just calling to say, oh, maybe somebody said something and she just wanted to relate. And I'll say, oh my God, do you think I'm my younger sister? Do you think I'm Rekia? You're calling me every minute. I really miss that. And I've been apologizing for that often, to say, I'm sorry. I took you for granted, thinking you're going to be there forever. That's something I miss about my mom.
I could be here forever. Different people and whatever. But so my husband, he, before I married him, why I married him was because he came to pick me at Gatwick Airport, and he promised me to come. Before I was in my mid-20s, late 20s, and guys were chasing me and all that, and I'm traveling and I'm coming back this day. They say, okay, nice or whatever. You pick me up. No. But this is my late husband. He said, I'll come and pick you up. I said, really? He said, yes. So when my flight was delayed for 3 hours, I said, he ain't gonna be there. That's me. I'm on my own. But I met him there. So that was my first. And that's how I know that was my husband. So that's one I cherish, and his smile, his laugh. My husband. Everybody that talks about my husband will say, "God, we miss his laugh. We miss his character." And he said to me, he didn't like to suffer. He liked the good life. And he said to me, one day he bought me on my 35th birthday. He said, I didn't think he could do anything for himself because I did all the finances. Somehow, he bought me a brand new Mercedes-Benz, and I didn't know about it. And when he bought it for me, I said, what? I said, people are going to think I have money now, But the fact that he did that for me, that one, it stands close to my heart. But yeah, we thank God for him. Yeah.
Well, thank you guys so much for sharing your stories of your loved ones. It's been a really lovely and wholesome conversation. And I really do hope that for anyone that's watching, that it has been reflective and enlightening. I don't know. I think it's one of those things of life. Like, life is so sensitive and it's so delicate, and so I really do appreciate everyone coming to share some of their most sensitive and tender moments, because all of us are going through it in one way or another.
Thank you for having us.
So thank you.
No, it's been nice sharing with you guys.
Well, God bless everyone. If you're watching at home, God bless. Subscribe. Thank you guys.
No, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Wow.